Okay. I'd like to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, May 20th at 7 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag for which it stands of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Apparently I was interested in going faster. Okay. So, let's start with just a brief recap of what happened on April 27th, which is the date that the town board conducted interviews to replace our dear departed friend Tony Haen. And on that Saturday, we had 4 candidates that had indicated an interest in replacing Tony in his position as chairman of the park committee as well. 3 of those people we interviewed. The 4th person declined at the last minute to go through the process. After the interviews, the board made a decision to replace Tony with his son, Mark, and we'd like to welcome Mark Haen to the board, and we'd like to make it official by having Amy give him the oath of office. So, Mark.
Stand up. Raise your right hand. I, Mark Haen,
I, Mark Haen,
having been appointed to the office of Town Board Supervisor,
having been appointed to the
having been appointed to the office of Town Board Supervisor,
Town Board Supervisor,
do swear
do swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Wisconsin,
of the State of Wisconsin,
and I will faithfully
and impartially
discharge said duties
discharge said duties
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Mark, and thank you. All right, with that done, then we could probably have a proper roll call. Amy, what do you think?
That sounds amazing. Supervisor Mark Haen.
Here.
Supervisor Jim Nellen.
Here.
Chairman Dan Wolfel.
Here.
Supervisor Linda Waite.
Here.
Supervisor John Stabenus.
Here.
All right, next on our agenda is the meet and greet, and since we just all introduced ourselves, we'll start on the front row with, let's start with the videographer for a change, showing the level of importance he has attained.
Caught me by surprise. Haen Chapman, Glidden Drive.
There we go. Mary Ellen?
Mary Ellen Haen, Matthew Road.
Ashley Schultz, Sturgeon Bay.
John Daniel, Whitefish Bay Road.
Brett Temme, Langkill, Gardner.
Brett Dillon from Brussels area.
Joel Kitchen, Sturgeon Bay. Pat Carter, Sturgeon Bay.
Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is public participation, non-agenda items only. If anybody has anything they'd like to talk about, now would be that opportunity. So, John?
So last month at the annual meeting, we learned a lot about state statutes and things. My first question is, as far as the town clerk / treasurer's job, was that ever brought to referendum?
Doesn't have to.
No. According to state statutes, it does.
No.
Might want to check into it with your attorney before you answer your question. Next question is, there's a lot of video footage that I personally have. I personally dug up. I've personally taken a lot of videos of you. When you call to a quorum, there's 3 people. You know there's a federal law that states you have to announce when you're having a meeting? Probably not. And there's a lot of other video on this nice CD. This is only one copy that I've handed out like candy over the last week. A lot of actions that have been taken by board members that are very unbecoming of board members. Right down to one board member jerking somebody off their chair at the local tavern. It's a lot of video. I've handed it out in numerous places. One starting with the state of Wisconsin, and definitely not with Joel Kitchen sitting behind me. Somebody else that sits in his office. The only other question I got, which news media do you guys want it delivered to? That's the last question I have.
Repeat what you said.
Which news media do you want it delivered to? Any one of them or all 3 of them? 4 of them?
Whatever you choose.
Perfect. That's all I got for today.
Well, thank you. Anybody else? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Joel?
I just,
Didn't see your hand.
no, that's okay. Just here to, see what you guys are doing. I just like to get around now and then to catch up on what's going on with the local stuff. Right now, of course, we're in the budget process. The transportation part is probably the part that will most affect you, and that probably will be put off till last. We go department by department as we go through the budget. It's in joint finance right now, but that being the most contentious, that will probably come last. But I'm hopeful that the local road aids will increase for you guys. We're working towards that, I guess. As far as how we're going to fund transportation, it's going to be tough. It was tough when the Republicans controlled everything, and I don't think it'll get any easier. Do you guys have any questions for me or any concerns? I think broadband probably is another issue that I know probably concerns you guys, and hopefully we can get more funding into that as well. But were there any things you guys had on your minds that?
Anyone have a question of Mr. Kitchens?
Okay. Next.
Not tonight.
Okay. I think
Well,
you
you can
addressed-
contact
I think you hit the two things that are on our, list, which is roads. How do we pay to keep up? We're on a 40-year cycle for repaving, not that that's news. And we already have one of our committees working towards trying to see what opportunities there might be for broadband extension, maybe perhaps along the lines of what Liberty Grove has done, and anything you can lend to that effort would be appreciated. So, thank you.
Well, and my office can help you when there are grants available. Sometimes they can help, hook you up with the right people, so.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. All right. We need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move the
assume-
adoption of the agenda.
All right. Motion by Jim, second by?
I'll second it.
Second by Mark. Should have asked that it was properly noticed, and I assume it was, Amy?
The agenda was properly noticed.
Thank you very much. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Approval of minutes, Board of Supervisors meeting from April 16th, and the special Board of Supervisors meeting on April 27th.
I would move to approve the Board of Supervisors meeting of April 16th, 2019, and as well the special meeting of the Board of Supervisors held on April 27th, 2019.
Okay, we have a motion by Linda, a second by?
I'll second that.
Second by John to approve the minutes from the Board of Supervisors meetings April 16th and the special Board of Supervisors meeting April 27th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Pending business, discussion and action. First thing on the list is the selection of a replacement building inspector. And this is, we brought this back from last month. As those of you may recall, on or around late April, I sent a letter from the town to the 3 building inspectors that were interested in our work, 2 of which are here this evening, Brent Gillett and Brett Temme, and basically gave them notice that we had concluded a review of their credentials as well as experience levels and fees, and we're willing to basically, to a large degree, agree that they're somewhat equal in terms of consideration, and therefore ask them to each give us, as the town, a letter basically taking or stating their position on why we feel, or excuse me, why they feel they would be the best resource for our town to use since Safe Built has moved on. So you have those 2 letters. There's only 2 from Brett Gillett and Brett Temme. We did not get a third one. You have those in your packet. You've had a chance to review them, and if there's any questions or comments you'd like to make, and then we can go about the process of selecting a replacement. So I will leave it up to you at this moment. John, Mark, Amy, Jim, Linda? Okay. Well, I've taken the time to go through both of the documents and looked at each one's position in terms of what type of capabilities they have and how they feel that they have worked with the community at large, that both represented by the building contractors as well as the people that have actually foot the bill, the homeowners. I have taken a look at both of them. I've also taken a few minutes to talk to some of my peers and also others who have had done business with or knew both of the gentlemen involved, and had some positive comments with respect to each. But frankly, based on what I have observed, it would be my recommendation to the board that we select Brett Temme to continue. We have a business relationship with him that has been acceptable and has been supportive of the town. He has all the qualifications, the office hours, the inspectors, the ability to deal with multiple inspections at the same time. And talking to my peers and others that were provided as references, I have no reason to suspect that anything would change with Brett's work history or employment with us that would be any different from the experiences we had at Safeville. So that would be my recommendation to the board, but none of you have to adhere to that. You're open to make your own recommendation.
Could I comment on the fee schedule?
Sure.
Regarding the fee schedule, I believe it's more equitable to have Mr. Timme's fee schedule is based on actual square footage, whereas Mr. Gillett's was based sort of a blanket from 1,000 square feet to, correct me if I'm wrong, 3,000 square feet or whatever. It was sort of a blanket fee, and I think based on square footage is a more equitable fee schedule to the homeowner, builder, whatever.
I wouldn't disagree.
Let me, Mr. Chairman, let me just give you my thoughts. I think that on paper, they're both very qualified. I was especially concerned about the way both gentlemen conduct themselves when dealing with not only homeowners, but with also the construction community. Because even though this is contracted out, nonetheless, you're a representative of the town in the eyes of people who are important to the town. I think that I think that the fact that we have worked with Brett Temme for a long time, and he appears to be very well regarded in the community, and when you look at all of the other factors, they pretty much are even. I think it is in our interest to remain with the known commodity.
Okay, thank you.
I will say we have worked with both Bretts. Brett Gill was here, I believe, before Brett Temme was. So we do have working relationship with both of them. Yeah, we are currently with Temme. Gill was former, and the town has had a good working relationship with him as well. I've worked with both of them in my own profession, as you all know, so I'm kind of biased one way or the other. I don't really know if I should be having.
So you'll get a vote.
I mean, I'll get a vote, I understand that, but, you know, I've worked with both of them pretty much equally, I would say, through the years, so I wouldn't have a problem with hiring either one of them.
Okay. John, you could have the last word.
I read all their stuff. They all seem, very good on everything. The fee schedules are pretty close, so we do have a good working relationship with Brett Temme. I would say, that we should just keep him. Other than that, they're pretty equal.
Okay.
What was the term how many years are we doing on this? Is there set?
This is 2-year.
2-year, okay.
2-year term. So, someone want to put that into a motion?
Could I ask one question?
Sure.
Okay, regarding the contract, so Mr. Timme's contract, and I'm not sure if Mr. Gillett's was the same, was a 2- or 3-year contract with, I believe, a 30-day notification should we wish to terminate.
That's how I read it.
So
Right.
even if we had not, or 60 days, so even if we had not completed 2 years, should something happen, we could still incorporate that notice
Right.
of termination, correct?
And that was reviewed by the attorney. If in fact there was cause, as there would be with anything, yes, that's correct. Okay. So did someone make a motion?
I'll move to utilize Brett Temme, which is Door County Inspections LLC, enter into a contract with him for our building inspection services for the period commencing when?
Actually be, today, we had an interim
We had
agreement
an
until such time as we finalize something. So
Okay.
we can make it effective.
So effective immediately?
Effective immediately.
And that would terminate our interim agreement or whatever, it doesn't matter,
I
for a
believe-
2-year period,
Right,
per the contract. How's that?
okay. So we have a motion by Linda, a second by,
I'll second that.
second by John. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you, Fred.
All right. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the road tour, and this came from Linda back after our last meeting. She has been in contact with Bay Lake Regional Planning. They originally gave us 2 dates. They have reduced that at least to 1 at this point. Have they given us an alternate?
They have not. I believe that June 10th is a Monday, and we have not firmed up any times yet, nor if supervisors wish to tag along or perhaps go in a separate vehicle and follow behind. So if that date works for everyone, Monday, June 10th, I'm not sure how many hours they're talking about, but it would be with at least one person from Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission that has been trained with the Whistler and Pazer program per the DOT standards. So that's all I know for now, that we are holding Monday, June 10th. I'm going to guess a start in the morning, but I'm not sure.
I would think that he's going to need a couple days. Assuming he's going to do all of the roads. So we should probably at least see if he's got a second date in mind, because once we get the results of his, whether we go along or we do it separately, we will still need a separate meeting to sit down and finalize what we're going to do with the roads and do an assessment. Whether or not we decide to go out after the fact and take his top 10 roads or top 20 roads and physically eyeball those and decide if we agree based on their assessment, if it, should be on our priority list. But ideally, the objective here was to try and set the groundwork for establishing a year after year plan to attack for the community. So I guess I'm looking for your input. Go ahead.
Would we as a board still take a tour? Because I've mentioned to Amy a couple calls that I've received, will you please come and take a look at this road or this area? So perhaps after Bay Lake does their evaluation, we could look at maybe the areas that they have significantly changed the ratings compared to what we had, plus those problem areas that we have on file.
That was my hope originally. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but my thought was let whoever assess the roads give us those core roads that they think are in dire need, and then any others that individually we're aware of that are an issue, and go and spend the time, look at those, and then formulate a plan that says Clark Lake Road is first or last or 15th, and try and build a list that we can use for this year, next year, and the year after. So I'm not so focused on having to ride with them as much as take their outputs and reevaluate it or evaluate it and then select something.
That's what I understood too, really a two-step process. We'll have one person review all the roads, give us his assessment, and then we would, as a second step, look at it, view that, review his work product with our knowledge of the individual needs of the community, and then decide if we can build a 5-year plan on that.
Would you like me to contact him and try to nail down a specific time? And perhaps he can give us a time frame. Maybe they can get all 86 miles done in one day, I mean, if they stick to it. So should I just reach out to him and try to get?
I think we need
time?
that, because the other thing is that after he gets his portion done, he's gonna have to take a few minutes to update us, or take some time before he does, and then we're gonna have to get together and agree on where we're going, and then turn around and bid the work, depending on the work, and get it to the county or to Northeast Asphalt.
He now has access to our Whistler rating sheet, correct, Amy?
He does.
So I have a feeling he's probably got this all programmed out in GIS and whatever, that
He
it
can
would
tell.
not be such a time-consuming, he may be able to get it done in one day.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Ask him to do that, ask what his timeline to turn it around. If he can't do it in day one, when is day two? When would we get his feedback? And then, based on that information, if you'd give that to Amy, I'll have her coordinate a date for us to get together, to go through that report, to take a ride around on those top 10, 15, 20 roads. Probably, I'm almost guessing, but I'm saying like maybe top 20, so we could build a 3-year plan. And so we'd spend, half a day, whatever, take a look at those roads, make an assessment, do our prioritization, and then set something so that by our July meeting, if not sooner, we could get something out.
So right now, he would not have, he or she or whoever's doing this eval would not have any ride-along. They would be out on their own? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
None of us would be
Well, if we're gonna
riding.
ride in a separate vehicle, that does absolutely no good.
Yeah, we're not gonna sit with the walkie-talkie and talk back and forth.
Yeah,
on this.
well,
I mean,
I mean, we do have cell phones that we could communicate back and forth. So nobody's riding along, nail down a date and a time, turn around, okay.
Because we'll still do our own.
And our ride-along in the past has been on a Saturday, hasn't it? Or is it?
Correct, it'll be on,
Yeah.
well, or it could be a weekday if you have vacation. There's 3 of us that do and 2 of us that have problems there, but typically it's been a Saturday
Yeah.
and we're done 1, 2 o'clock. But if we get the reports back from Bay Lake and it's condensed down to whatever, it shouldn't be too involved. And then it's a matter of deciding how to do it and put a bid out and try and get on the list so that we get it done this year. And we have a carryover road on West Shore that was not completed from last year, but we have the funds. It doesn't come out of this year's budget. And we have Apple Road, which was supposed to be a chip seal. It did not get accomplished last fall. I sent Dad a note to remind him that that needs to be done and not to wait for us. So if that's agreeable to everybody? Okay.
Okay,
Makes sense.
so I'll
Amy.
let everybody know let Amy know on a time,
Okay, great.
whatever,
Thank you.
and turnaround, okay.
Okay. Door County Coastal Byway Renewal Process Update. And I guess, Linda, you're,
So I submitted, if you recall, I think it was 2 months ago, or maybe last month, we updated, we did a new resolution for a 10-year renewal period of the Door County Coastal Scenic Byway. And when I presented that to the chairman of the Coastal Byway Council, she suggested that she said she was still waiting for language from the Stan Peony at the DOT that we might need to revise that resolution and attach a zoning map, which I think we did or did not. And if we wanted to think about excluding or specifically not excluding any of our commercial areas, which would be Institute and Valmy. Because if you are on the scenic byway, there are a couple extra signage regulations that you have to comply with. So no need to do anything now. Again, we're waiting for suggested language and maybe think about this core area, so.
we have one sign that appeared here in town when the county approved Penovich's construction sign after the fact by mistake. That's the only one that we have in the corridor, I believe. Okay. All right, so when you're ready, you'll bring it back?
Yep.
We'll put it back on the agenda. All right. All right, next item is the ATVs on Town Road. And this was a topic for discussion at the annual meeting in April. There was interest in our doing that, and What we need to do tonight is decide if we want to proceed with this, what's the process we're going to use, when do we want to try and do it, and in all of that, is it something that we might want to bring up at a comprehensive plan meeting versus a public hearing and/or both to discuss, to judge the level of interest by the town? Because I think I think we need to have broad input on this, because there are some areas of concern that I know I've heard about, and maybe some of you have heard on a couple other areas that if this were to happen, we'd probably want to look to exclude or modify. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm surprised nobody's here from the snowmobile club, like the representative that was here last time. I'm surprised he's not here tonight, or somebody opposing it or for it. I'm really amazed by that. I've had close to a dozen people either talk face-to-face or have called or text me about it. Especially people down on the lake, love to be able to get over to the bayside. So I haven't had anybody contact me against it. Everybody is very positive. They want to be able to go back and forth. So that's all the input I've had. Nothing negative at all.
And Mark, these are people who are in favor of it, they have ATVs?
Yep.
And they would like to be able to use the
Yep,
roads?
and
Okay.
they're using them now,
Yeah.
through ditches and such.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that want to ride the ATVs and UTVs on the roads, because they are outnumbering snowmobiles by far now, you know, because you can ride that anytime. You don't have to have snow to do a snowmobile, so. And a lot of the other communities are doing it. Not saying that's the right thing or the wrong thing, but, you know, we don't want to be the block in the middle that they can't come across and go all the way up north too, so.
Well, they can't get through Sturgeon Bay, and they can't get through.
They can probably go by the bridge just like they do with the snowmobile.
I don't know that they could if it was approved, but I mean, at this point in time, Sturgeon Bay is not open to that. Neither is Jacksonport or the village or town of Egg Harbor. The only place that's north of us, that is north of Southern Door, is Bailey's Harbor.
And Washington Island.
Well, Washington Island, sorry. You can't take a UTV.
They're north.
Yeah. But those are the only two places that I'm aware of. And I think, going back to Mark, your comment that people are for it, I think they are too, but I think one of the issues that we have to deal with is that there's a lot of expense associated with that. And in other communities where this has been done, there have been snowmobile or business groups or somebody that is funded, you know, which is about $3,000.
For the signage, you mean?
For signage,
Yeah,
and
I saw
depending
that.
on where you go, you know, the level of signage increases significantly depending on how you deal with the routes or so on and so forth. So even if it was approved tomorrow, you'd need to figure out a funding source in order to pay for it. But I think given this topic that we should have as broad input as possible, so at least I would do a public hearing if we want to proceed. And the other question might be is maybe the comprehensive plan hearing would be a secondary venue or a primary venue where we raise this issue and get some feedback on where to track it. You don't want to be in a position where after the fact, we got people coming out of the woodwork complaining about this, and then we're trying to put a Band-Aid on it. So,
I agree with you. I'd like to have, I think doing this in the context of the comprehensive plan it makes a lot of sense. I think also having a public meeting to address it makes sense. I want to make sure that people have had an opportunity to speak their minds. Having said that, I was pleasantly surprised that many of my concerns were dealt with satisfactorily the last time we met, by the fellow representing the
John Bionic.
John, I thought he did a really good job. I think he ought to have the opportunity of making that same presentation to perhaps a larger universe of people.
Do we have a rough idea when we're thinking the comprehensive plan hearing might be?
August.
Next one?
Yeah,
Probably
August.
August?
That was my thought too, that Mr. Blahnik would reach out to his people. It sounds like he has some people on board, and try to get an ATV club going and raise some funds to sponsor the signs and maintain them and put them up and
Well, he's very aware of that, because he asked me, and I said, you need somebody to present it, you need somebody to run it. So, and he says, well, we'll see, so.
You could form a bona fide club or
Yep.
whatever, just like Door Devils or whoever. Have fundraisers.
So, let me just summarize this quickly once. If you'd be happy to have us address it as part of the comprehensive plan meeting, and then based on the input from that group, we would schedule a public hearing, just to be redundant, at an upcoming meeting after that timeframe?
Yeah, it'd be good to have
Sounds
as
good.
many people as possible to let know
Okay.
about it.
So, John and Linda, when you deal with Brandon, tell him that's going to be part of our meeting in August timeline, and based on the output of that, we'll schedule something for September, October, and see what's up. The bulk of the use from Southern Door, as I mentioned earlier, has basically been snow, winter-driven access to the ice. So I don't envision we're going to have 50, ATV parades, but anyway. Okay, that's how we'll proceed then. Thank you. All right. Newsletter topics. And I think the goal here was just to talk about the timing, and that ties back to the comprehensive plan and maybe ATVs and. So I know I gave Amy a couple subjects that I thought we could talk about, and Amy, I didn't bring it with me.
I have a couple things.
Go ahead.
Well, we had talked about, I've talked to Amy about this too. Obviously, the comprehensive plan update would be the main thrust of the newsletter, front page, please come. We need your input. We have a new board member. We could do an article on Mr. Haen. The burn permit process has changed. We definitely would want to include that. I think that's all I had.
I think we talked about cable, right?
We did.
Or,
I think
internet.
Cable,
this is
okay.
an opportunity for us to get the survey that we want to distribute far and wide throughout the community to find out from people within the town who's served, and more importantly, who's not being served by high-speed internet. I would like to attach to or make part of the newsletter a copy of that survey, and then, because of the upgrades we're making to the website, ask people to go onto the website and fill out the survey. I have to get hold of the folks at Great Lakes, Bay Lakes Regional Planning to see if we can, talk about their undertaking the survey and using their relationship with one of the survey companies so as to, it would remove one expense that we would otherwise have. But I think that the newsletter is a perfect opportunity for us to get that out.
Do you think we need to do 8 pages? Could we do 4 pages?
Is this a one-time newsletter? Is this a monthly, or what was the,
Well, we did one,
It's a
last
yearly.
summer?
just one?
We tried to do 1 or 2 a year, Mark. We were doing 2 for a while, we dropped back to 1.
I think the website is something we should point out on the newsletter, the way we're redoing it. So I was looking at from our packet, I was looking at that today, and there's a lot of useful stuff on there.
No, absolutely.
And just the videos of the meetings and stuff, to let people know there's something out there they can be involved with.
Well, I think when is Brandon coming up here? June?
10th,
No, I mean for the
20th.
Plan Commission. On June 20th, if we could nail down dates for the public hearing and then start soliciting articles for the newsletter and get that out in plenty of time, how's that?
Yeah, you'd have to have a July second half, depending on when you think your meeting would be, but second half of July, if you're talking about early August, or adjust it
Right.
accordingly.
Well, we'd catch everybody up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd like to have as many seasonal people as well. and
When did you
their
say you
input.
can make it? June 20th?
Thursday, June 20th? Okay.
Okay, great. We'll bring that back next month just as an update, so we're all on the same page. All right. Under new business, consideration of designating town property to former town board members. This was an output from the annual meeting, I believe by Chuck Tice at the time. And his ask was that we can give consideration to doing something on behalf of our past chairman, Leo Zipper, and our past town board member, Tony Haen. Unfortunate that both of those individuals passed away unexpectedly in a very short time frame, so close to one another. So we want to have a discussion about that, and at the same time, as a separate item, but nonetheless, the community that valued both of those people and their relationships have come forth and made significant donations on behalf of them. We have over $2,000 in a fund on Tony, under Tony's, in Tony's memory, and another $1,200 in Leo's memory. So we'd also like to talk about, keep that in the back of your mind as we talk about designating town property, if it's appropriate or not, for those two individuals. So let's perhaps have a little discussion with respect to what do you think's appropriate, is it, and what might we do? So I'll open it up to anybody.
Well, it's,
I have to break the ice here all the time, I guess, I don't know. Well, emotions are high right now with, you know, Mr. Haen's recent passing and Leo just before him. So many people have been instrumental in that town park over the years. I think we started it in 1985 or something like that. With nothing. We started with nothing. So we had to acquire land and the playground and the baseball fields and all that. And likewise, the town hall. Again, so many people are instrumental in developing, you know, things, positive things for the town. We could always, I don't know what you're thinking, but a plaque, a nice plaque in memory of service, and adding names to that as we go along. Again, something at the park. We've talked about a news, you know, a broadcast bandstand or whatever.
Okay.
Something in the town hall here that we're lacking.
I mean, you mentioned just this last week, Harry Cole passed away.
Yeah.
Right,
Which
he was very
great.
instrumental in
He
the
was
park.
another
Yeah.
individual that, although not part specifically of the town, I think at one time he was on the park committee.
He was.
So you raise a good point with respect to individuals, so there may be merit to that.
I like the idea that if you have a plaque, that you can keep adding names, because like Linda said, there are a lot of people that
Have done,
have
right.
done a lot for that park.
And having it perhaps in the town hall here, I think we get more visitors to the town hall than we would, say, visiting the concession stand or on the wall in the concession stand. But someone also mentioned a mural or whatever on the concession stand. That's a great idea too. So,
We've had people come to the park board and ask to name fields or to do stuff in the past, and my dad has turned it down because of that exact reason. Mike K was one that they came after
Yes.
Mike K passed, and they wanted to name the North Softball Field the Mike K Memorial Field or whatever. And the family was there, and it was tough to sit and talk to the family and tell them that we're not interested for that reason. You know, who was the first guy that picked a rock over there to start leveling the fields, you know, and he's gone. We have no names over there, you know, memorial fields and stuff like that. So in the past, we've turned it down, so, I mean, I think that kind of setting a precedent if you start naming things, and I think the plaque's a great idea. Trees, we need trees.
right.
We need lots of trees. Meisners have gone through that park and say we could have trees, you know, if you guys ever been to Maplewoods Ball Field, on the first base side, they got all those maples that run, it's beautiful shade. You know, when they're playing the county league game and the sun's beating down, it's all shade around that side. So if, you know, get some trees planted over there, and
We were just
probably
told-
not ash trees.
You know, we were just told at the last meeting, we had asked Dave's tree service to come out and assess our trees, and as you know, we've been treating them. He did not give us a good report, so it looks like probably half of our existing trees, which have now finally reached a level where they would be effective, are probably gonna have to come down. So,
Don't a lot of them have plaques by them?
well, we're gonna
Have to replace them.
Well, right, exactly. And as part of that conversation with the donations, I would throw out that, I think Tony would be a happy camper. I think we could spend that money to replenish the trees at the park and add to whatever we can. It's unfortunate. I mean, we made a significant investment in trees over there, and we have some that are really nice, but there are some that are going to be salvageable, but it looks like far too many of them are going to end up being firewood. So, but to the point of the plaque, I like that. I'd go a step further. I'd say we put up 2, put one here and put one at the town park where people go. And I hate to say it, but like you said, I mean, we could put a plaque up there and it could be 5, 6 names on there right off the bat, you know, that would indicate, you know, these were significant contributors. And Mike Kay and Harry Cole certainly would, you know, merit interest. So I don't know what other thoughts you might have.
Well, Gordy Schumacher was instrumental. Donnie Haen was instrumental.
Oh.
Gary Haen was, I believe, on one of the
He was the original.
initial
He was the original
board
clerk,
members.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
But there is the plaque on the south side of the concession stand that has the names of people that helped get the fields running and stuff.
Yeah. So are you comfortable with that? Like Mary Ellen, since one of the most.
The one problem you might have is one person that is sitting out here in the community and put in 100 hours and was quiet about it, and he said, well, my name's not on the plaque. You might miss somebody. The plaques are a nice idea, but what happens if you miss somebody?
Yeah, but the plaque is for someone that passed away. I mean,
That's all it would be?
Yeah, it would be for people that in memory of, yeah.
We could easily go through, I
You
believe
have to have the history,
from
and
all
look at the history
the original.
very closely.
I believe we have the minutes from the origination of the Park and Rec Committee that we could
My dad got it from Aunt Joyce,
cruise for names.
because Uncle Gary had the original
Yep.
minutes, and there's copies
They're
floating
in the
around.
file room, yeah.
Did you state you wanted some picnic tables out underneath by the one field?
Can I speak to this?
Sure.
Tony was in the process of looking at pricing out picnic tables to put down like by the south ball field, also over by the east of the concession stand where as he said, some old people would sit there and it was not comfortable for him. So he was looking at putting some picnic tables there for old people and families, he said, because that's who was watching there, and it was hard, especially the south ball field. So that's what he was pricing things out and looking at.
Okay. Does anybody here have a strong feeling one way or the other? Because I could take this back to a park committee. And let the park committee wrestle through it for a final recommendation?
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Okay, that's what we'll do. We'll take into account the table and the plaque concepts, and maybe in the interim, we can find out, hopefully, I would prefer a short plaque. Hopefully, we don't have that many people that have been involved and are gone, so, although I can't say I know the number. Okay, great. Let me just touch back on, we were talking a lot here about Tony and the funds. We also have money from Leo. Would the board be agreeable to do the same thing with those funds?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good enough. All right, next item is resolution in support of EMS as a municipal service. And John will talk to this in detail. I guess just as a basic understanding, the county, which supplies countywide EMS services, has gone out and requested information, not an RFP, but something along those lines, to try and understand if EMS services could be better handled by a private entity. And there has been great concern raised by the fire chiefs throughout the county as to the effectiveness of that. And there's pluses and minuses, as I understand it. And while this has been happening, the county board administrator, Ken Pavich, has sent a memorandum out to the various towns, basically saying we might have the cart before the horse a little bit, and that they're doing their due diligence, for lack of a better phrase, to make sure that we are addressing this need competitively, correctly. And so he views it as a way to go out and make sure that we're doing our job, not necessarily to outsource the work. And so he has sent a memo to that effect, which I believe you have copies of. And in the packet that you have that you had for reading is a draft resolution from the fire chiefs asking for our support. We're in a little bit different arena here because we have first responders as part of our community. But with that as a backdrop, I'm going to let John talk to the rest of the issue, and then we can decide on what action, if any, we will take. So, John?
Yeah. First of all the fire chiefs and the first responder groups are for keeping the EMS system as it is right now.
Pull his mic down, please. Thank you.
Are for keeping the EMS system as it is now. In my opinion, if it's broke, don't fix it. And a private, are they going to have the same level of care? Are they going to need the first responders, or are we just going to be done? You know, if they get called out to, say, just a simple lift assist to pick somebody up off the floor, somebody's going to get charged for that. And the worst thing that we don't want to have happen is, you know, say this little lady, we go pick her up 3 or 4 times, then she's afraid to call because they keep charging her. So, and we're trying to bring good jobs into the local community, and now we're trying to push it out, privatize it. I would say 90% of the paramedics live within the county. So we've got good paying jobs in Door County. We're trying to bring them in, and now we're trying to privatize it, which I don't know how many paramedics or whatever would live in the county or out of the county. One other thing was that they were trying to, and one of the thoughts was that they would work with 1 paramedic and 1 EMT. But in order to work as a paramedic squad, you have to have 2 paramedics, or the paramedic has to work down to the EMT level. So if an EMT and a first responder work together, you have to work as a first responder level. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things up in the air, but yes, I want to make sure that the level of care is still there from what we have right now. We've got a good working system, and I don't think we need to fix it at all. So, if anybody's got any questions?
Well, I read Ken's note. I guess
I think we're going to spend the same amount of money for a private ambulance as we are for, you know, the county's ambulances. So.
Should we address the issue now, or wait until?
No, we can address the issue now. I mean,
John, I don't probably disagree with the thing you're saying. I never appreciated fully the importance of the first responders until I got this position. And I realized that you truly are first responders, and I don't want anything to damage that. By the same token, this is a philosophical issue. I just don't think as one agency of government we ought to be impinging on the authority or the prerogatives of another agency of government. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that we have every reason, if we see a deterioration in service, we shouldn't think twice about bringing it to the attention of the right people. But I think that as you get into the more granular detail, I don't understand it. I don't know it. I look at the final product and I come away with the impression it works. But I understand that the county is wrestling with this, and I don't want to. I don't want to mousetrap them. I think they ought to be able to address this, and I think at the end of the day, privatization is probably never going to occur, but by the same token, I think the agency or the committee at the county level that's been tasked with this should be allowed to look at it. Presumably, you will, along with others, indicate, make a very forceful argument directly to that group. And I think that that's where it ought to be. I know that as an agency of government, sometimes we get restive when other agencies of government try to involve themselves too closely in our affairs. And it's just, and that's what's driving me to resist instructing the county as to what they ought to do.
We're just putting in favor that we are in favor of the system that is in there now, not to change it.
And the county, and I don't know what the county's going to do, but presumably the people who are sitting on that committee and the county supervisors, have the same commitment to wanting to, to have the same commitment to the community that we do. And I would allow them to undertake their activities and decide, and make whatever they decide, it's going to be, I'm sure, hotly debated at the county level.
We're kind of at the mercy of the county, aren't we? In our town? I mean, we're kind of, what they decide we have to go with.
Well, it's a countywide, paramedic
Yeah.
thing, and then each town has its own individual first responder group, so
And they're-
most of them are tied to a fire department, which we don't have our own fire department, but we have
They'll keep the first
good working
responders.
first responder group of probably, I think we have 15 people on there right now.
I think the first responders are an absolute vital part of providing citizens of this, certainly this town, but all the county, effective EMS. And so I would, I obviously don't want to, I'm sensitive to the fact that the interest of first responders needs to be taken into account. I think that there's nothing wrong with our making it clear to anybody who will listen that we are very protective of our first responders, that in many instances, I understand that when there's an emergency, our first responders are truly first responders and get there before the paramedics do. And we
Most of
don't,
the time.
and the town supports first
Right.
responders. What are we spending this year on first responders?
I think the budget's right around 15,000 total with training and everything.
And the people who are first responders are obligated to undergo a significant amount of training, ongoing training, and I'm very protective of that. Now, that's an argument I would not be the least bit reluctant making
Okay.
clear to the county.
Well, I personally think the level of care is going to go down because they're not going to live here, they're not going to be here, I don't know if you privatize it, are they, the county just spent a whole bunch of money on that new building. Are they going to, and what about all the good paying jobs for the paramedics that, they just hired another 6, so they've got 12 in the south and 6 in the north. That's 18 jobs right there.
Well, I'm not, you shouldn't understand anything I've said as being a proponent of privatization, but what I am concerned about is that I want the county committee and the county board to, quite frankly, have the kind of discretion that they should have in addressing this issue. And and unless something terribly wrong occurs, my feeling is that there will be this going back and forth between the towns and the county as we address issues like first responders.
I think
I don't want to put Linda on the spot, but,
I think we should have an ordinance that's saying that we support the system that is now, the way it is right now. And that's what this ordinance is about, too. Or the resolution, I'm sorry. The resolution is to say that we support the system the way it is right now.
I wish that Ken had published this note first instead of after the fact, which would have addressed a lot of the concerns, because it's not a request for proposal. It is not an RFP, and in that sense, they'll take a peek, but, it has to go through many, many steps before anything would happen. So I'm disappointed it didn't come out sooner, before this. I don't disagree with what Jim said. I also agree with you in terms of what we have. I value that, but I wonder if there's another way to maybe not overreact, but be prepared to react. And I don't know if that's the right word. I know I've talked to the fire chief about it as well. Linda, you're on the county board. What is your
Okay.
perspective here?
Well, like our chairman said, please look at page 23 and 24 of your packet. It is a memorandum from our county administrator, and, I mean, he is charged, the county is charged with doing its due diligence to ensure that we are getting the services that we need in a cost-efficient manner. Thus, the request for RFQ, request for quotations. And also on page 24, near the bottom, he has his 3 points. He's asking for patience. Please do not become reactionary, just like our chairman just said. He's asking that if municipalities do have thoughts and ideas and options that they would like the county to address or consider, to please let them know that. And there's eventually going to be an evaluation. Personally, I would respectfully request to abstain from a vote on this resolution, just based on the fact that this matter is before several committees at the county level. It's in negotiations, it's pending discussions, and like I said, personally, I think it's premature, and I don't feel comfortable expressing an opinion at this time until I have evaluations from all the other committees.
We haven't heard from our newest member. Mark, do you have any thoughts?
I think we're cart before the horse again. Like Linda just said, nothing has happened yet. It's still, if you read this, they're just getting ideas right now. They're not going forward with anything. I think we're kind of jumping the gun a little bit as a town. But I do agree that we need to keep what we have in place in our town. I think both of you guys said we have great first responders, everything.
Right.
I think we should just let it ride for now. And I mean, you look, it says that they're gonna need our input once they get they need our input in all the evaluations and.
Yeah, but how much input are they gonna let us actually do?
Well, I mean,
You know,
they want us to review it.
I think we could, just offer this out, I think we could indicate to the county that we are willing to cut them a little slack to see what they get back, but that we are in strong support of our own organization and strongly feel that until you tell us or show us otherwise, we are in support of maintaining a countywide service, but give them a little latitude to go. I don't know even if we agree with this resolution that it means anything to the county, because they've already done this.
Right.
So,
it's just a letter, a resolution in support of keeping the system that's intact right now. And the biggest thing is, it's gonna come down to the level of care. You do not want the level of care to go down any at all.
all right.
You know, you don't want people to be afraid to call in, because they're worried about getting a bill just to get picked up off the floor. I mean, we do a lot of those, and as long as they can, sit up and sign the paper and their paramedics check them out and they're fine, they don't get a bill at all. So, I guess if you want to stay on top of it, we're going to really have to stay on top of it, because once the paramedics are gone and it's privatized, you're not getting it back.
Well, we have two representatives in our town regardless, in Linda and Biz, that I would assume would certainly ensure that that evaluation comes back, down to the town levels. So, I don't know, I'm open on it. I could flip a coin either way. One saying strong letter to follow if you go off course, to approving it. Like I said, I'm not sure that even if we do, and if he gets them from 14 municipalities, it's going to change them maybe. Do you have any perspective on that?
I cannot believe our county would ever compromise the level of service that we're providing now. We wouldn't, I just don't see us ever doing that. Like the memo says, effective service, and cost-efficient emergency medical service. I cannot believe the county would ever compromise the level of service that we are providing our residents, our visitors, year-round, with our 18, 19 paramedics, plus the support of our local municipalities, our first responders, our EMTs, our, what other designations that we have.
It's a big system. So
Absolutely.
I don't think they should mess with it or touch it, but that's my opinion. So, I mean, I just feel that, they really shouldn't even have brought this up, because it's working fine. Like I said, we're trying to bring jobs, good paying jobs into our towns, into our county and everything. Here we've got some good paying jobs, and, where are the people that privatize it, where are they gonna come from, So, the EMTs, first responders, everybody, paramedics all live in our county, except for maybe one or two. So, that's my opinion.
Those might be conditions if the county would even decide to go that route. I'm sure there would be a very lengthy contract, and perhaps that could be a condition that you must live in the county. I'm just speculating. Like I said, in my mind, it's too premature at this point. It's under negotiations and discussion, and I'd just as soon abstain from voting on it if it goes that route.
I'll ask Amy. Amy, do you have any, well, maybe even you, Linda, do you have any flavor for where this sits with any of the other towns?
The town of Jacksonport recently submitted a resolution in support of maintaining the current system. That's the only one I'm aware of.
So if we sit on this for 30 days, does it hurt us?
May not, but I would say no more than 30 days.
I'm on the fence, and I don't want this to end up, being
I know
a disruption, but I think
The fire chiefs are all, the Fire Chiefs Association was all for it.
right, and I understand that. I understand how you feel as an EMR and how I could feel as a potential client.
Yeah.
But I think we are just a hair ahead of this thing, and,
So it's good to be ahead of things.
Well, it's okay, and I'd be more than happy to pick up the phone and call Ken and tell him exactly where we're at on it, and that, strong letter to follow if need be. But I'd just soon wait 30 days and see what the consensus is, and we don't necessarily have to be a leader on it, and I'm not saying we decline it. Let it roll for 30 days, and based on feedback, reassess it at that time. That would be how I would take it. Mark or Jim, any of you have any feeling?
Just one quick.
Sure.
Again, I'm going to refer back to Mr. Pavick's memo. There are many different potential models out there. They're operated by cities, by counties, by villages, by towns. There's partnerships involving private and municipal. So, like I said, it's kind of premature right now until you get, will there even be a response to the RFQ?
So,
Maybe we have such a good system in place that nobody else wants to even tackle it.
well, if somebody wants to make a motion one way or the other, we'll move on this one way or the other.
I move we table it for the moment.
Okay, motion to table.
For 30 days?
That's fine, John, but we should have some idea. Let's get to the point, I mean, if we want to, if that's the sense that people want to table this only for 30 days, but we should, in fairness to the people who are actually wrestling with this issue, give them the opportunity of telling us, you know, give us a substantive proposal. I mean, it's not a secret that this has elicited sharp concerns on the part of a lot of people. I just think that I have enough confidence, or we should have enough confidence in the county to at least go to the next step and see what happens. And we do have a concern when it comes to the care and feeding of our first responder group. It's important to us. And there's no reason that when the conversation gets to that point, we can't deal ourselves into that discussion. I think it's premature.
Okay, a vote table. Go ahead.
Instead of stating 30 days, could we table to the next meeting of the Board of Supervisors? That way, just in case something would come down the line 10 days from now, 2 weeks from now, you could call a special meeting to address it, or we look at it again on June 17th, rather than stating 30 days,
That's fine.
just in case.
I'm amenable to that. We should change them.
The one thing I'm reading here, the deadline is July 1st.
Right.
And once the deadline's passed, then they're gonna do the review process. So I don't think anything's gonna be coming down in the next 10, 20, you know what I mean? So nothing's gonna happen before that, before the 1st of July. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct, you're right.
I think that's
You're
true.
absolutely right.
So we're just tabling it till the next board meeting?
Let's table it to the next board meeting, at which time we'll reevaluate what actions we take.
That's fine.
Whether we act on the resolution or we have an update from Linda at the county. I will make a call to Ken Pavich and tell him where, as a town, we stand, and if need be, we'll step up to the plate and approve this resolution, you know, so it's not left-handed, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt to work it a little bit and see what happens.
Speaking of our
Yes.
system.
Could we also invite Supervisor Verley?
Sure.
If this does appear on a future agenda, might be wise to get his input as well. That way we're represented on both districts.
So I have a question. Why are we tabling it if you're gonna go to Ken, how you pronounce his last name, Pavich? Why are we tabling it if you're gonna go tell him how we feel? Why don't we just do a resolution so we show as a board how we feel?
Because we're going to want to give them the benefit of the doubt to get this process going and see if it's really even an issue. I just want to tell them, it's kind of like strong letter to follow, but I'm not going to do that at this juncture. I'm going to give them an opportunity, see where it develops, and then do whatever we need to do to take the appropriate action to support our group if it ends up being in opposition. I don't want to leave it,
So
I don't want to leave John feel like we are not concerned about it at all, and I don't want to take the step of formalizing it in a resolution just yet.
And not only John,
Well,
but
it's
our
not just
town
me,
people.
it's,
Well-
you know, you got paramedics, you got
I agree,
everybody.
but I meant by
you know?
you.
I don't want the
meant
little old
reference.
lady out there to be afraid to call in.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
It's
she's already fallen twice and now they're gonna, she's already got
She can't get
3
out.
Medicare bills.
No, I agree, and
So-
I'm referring to the group as a whole, so. All right, we have a motion to hold it over for 30 days. All those
No.
in favor signify by saying aye.
Well, I thought it
No,
was to the next
till the next
meeting.
board meeting.
Next board meeting. I'm sorry, 30.
There wasn't a
well, it's
second.
30 days, till the next board
You need a
meeting.
second?
I need a second.
I'll second to carry it over to the next board.
Thank you, I missed that. All right, so we'll take it again. We'll hold it over until the next board meeting. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, okay. We'll bring it back next month.
Good.
All right. Okay, financial reports. You have before you the account balances through the month of April, budget versus actual January through April of 2019. And you also have the transaction list by date. So if anybody has any questions on those, if not, a motion to approve those. And before we do that, I will give our treasurer a moment to tell us any enlightening facts. Amy?
We did receive one of the last bills for our snow removal, and that put the town over budget by $14,500. We also did receive the bill from the county clerk for the spring primary and the spring election for ballots and programming our machine. With that unexpected spring primary, that did put us over budget by $1,450.
So our snow removal, we budgeted 110,000 and we're at 125.
That's correct.
So any snow next year will be handled by the supervisors with shovels.
There might be one more storm, but I think there's another bill coming that has one more on it yet.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, financial reports, April 2019, a motion to approve would be in order.
I move the approval of the financial report.
Motion by Jim, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Approval of vouchers, bills, and claims, April 17th through May 20th, 2019. Everybody had a chance to sign those, I believe? If so, motion to approve would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers, bills, and claims.
Motion by John, second by?
I'll second.
I think it was by Mark. Motion by John, second by Mark, to approve vouchers, bills, and claims April 17th through May 20th, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, thank you. Oral committee or commission reports. You do have some minutes in the packet here from the Property Management Committee from September of last year. Those are the only minutes that are in there. We need to approve those. And if anyone has any oral committee reports that they'd like to spend time with?
Well, just at the property, there's a huge lapse between our meeting on September of 2018 to our last meeting, which we held last week. The Property Management Committee did meet. So we were waiting for a response from our attorney on some legal issues. So we will try to meet more regularly.
I put a note here when I read your minutes, and it's not something that we need to finalize tonight, but I'd like your feedback, and we'll bring it back next month, on posting draft minutes, the pluses and minuses. In some cases, as you've indicated, some of our committee meetings are stretched quite a far apart, and as a result, sometimes, it's really not current information when it finally comes out. So I'm contemplating that. We could do that, and I guess I'd like to look at the whys and why nots at next month's meeting. So, okay. All right, thanks, Linda. Well, Linda, you're back again, the county board report.
I will keep this short. The county board meets not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, May 28th at 9 a.m. at the Government Center downtown. Obviously, we just talked about the EMS services. Again, that's in discussion and negotiations. I did attend Door Kiwani Legislative Days in Madison last month. We had about 60 people, I think, from Door County, plus some students from Sturgeon Bay High School and I think Kiwani High School. If town officers come to our unit meeting on Thursday evening, Jim Schlusler from the Door County Economic Development Corp will give a full report on that. I also heard something about the cost for oil is significantly going to increase. So we might want to ask for a cost sheet from our Door County Highway Department. Remember that sheet that the commissioner would send us, say this is what pulverization or chip seal, whatever.
They haven't done that for the last 2 years.
Can we ask for one?
I did ask for one last year, and I was a verbal over the phone, but I didn't realize it either. But when I had gone to John Clogie last year, he said they hadn't done that.
Okay.
We can ask again to see what their thoughts might be, but I did have a conversation with them last year, so,
At least, per mile,
yep.
complete
But is that
polarization.
locked
and
in?
I don't know if it's locked in.
I said, is that locked in then?
Well, they would be locked in, but they would have locked in at this year's rates where they were advantageous. Excuse me, what was advantageous is they locked in the year before. But anyway, I'll contact them and see what I can.
There's like a 36% increase in oil or something like that. And all the departments are working on the budget for 2020 expenditures plus capital improvement programs. So they're short and sweet.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to that 30% increase in oil,
Don't quote me on that. That's just,
I understand, but I'm curious, which perhaps the chairman could find out. I'm wondering if that's because they locked in a good price, they hedged a good price, and this year they were finally brought up to market.
I don't know.
You can certainly ask. Although we all have seen them move the price of gas up, 30, 40 cents in their usual march for Memorial Day, so. Okay, license, you have the April zoning and safe-built construction permits that were issued in your packet. And in correspondence, our grant for the comprehensive plan was extended through October. There's a copy of that memo in there. There's also a copy of the invite, and I think you've all seen this from Mariah, regarding affordable housing. Tomorrow night, the 21st, the 29th, and the 30th, in 3 different locations, talking about solutions for affordable housing. We had a letter from the Bay Shore Property Owners Association telling us that they cleaned up 13 miles of Bay Shore Drive, and we thank them for their efforts, and 4 miles of roads leading off Bay Shore Drive. So thank them for that. I'm sure over the winter there was a ton of wonderful things out there for them to pick up. You also have a copy of the Door County Sheriff's incident reports for the month, just a summary. And we continue to be right up there. City of Sturgeon Bay, the fire incident report, which is very minimal this month, which is good news. You also have a copy of the February 2019 room tax listing of permitted properties. And as I found out the other day, someone took the time to count all of the properties that were permitted last summer. I think that was Linda. I think it was 71. Was that the correct number? 71, not including hotels, motels, which brought it to 81 permitted properties that are renting. And there are over 1,000 Airbnb and VRBO establishments renting in Door County. So significant impact on tourism. There's also a notice of pending riprap on the Bay of Green Bay, which is public notice that they have to distribute. And that is all in the correspondence. Announcements. Open book for 2019 is Friday, May 31st at 10 a.m. here at the Town Hall. An opportunity for you to come in and look at the tax roll for properties that you own or your neighbors, as whatever you feel. The next Board of Supervisors meeting is Monday, June 17th at 7 p.m. The Board of Review will be conducted on Monday, June 24th at 1 p.m. So if you're interested in appearing before the Board of Review, suggest you attend the open book, talk to the assessor, see if there's anything he can do prior to that for you, and then contact the clerk because there are some forms that need to be completed prior to your appearance at the Board of Review. Agenda items for next month, we have some carryover. Is there anything new that somebody wants to add that we didn't talk about this evening? If not, we're at John's favorite part of the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by John, second by?
Second.
Second by Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.